All right, so looks like we're diving into the world of Belgian flowers.
And wow, with all this material too, it seems like you're really after an in-depth look.
Yeah, we're going way beyond tulips and windmills here. Getting into the cultural side, maybe even some hands-on stuff with sustainable gardening.
You're after that slow travel experience, I think, which is perfect for appreciating how Belgium does flowers. It's not just the visuals, it's about the history and the culture.
Okay, love that idea, slow travel. It
Yeah.
is. So where do we even begin? I see Belgium in Bloom really emphasizes how Belgium's relationship with flowers goes way back.
Oh yeah, centuries back. The book explains how monasteries were like the OG plant experts.
Monasteries, huh? I wouldn't have thought of them as the plant pioneers. So how did Belgium become known for these elaborate gardens and festivals?
Well, as the aristocracy got more powerful, they saw gardens as like a status symbol.
So like those stunning castle gardens, the big shows?
Yeah, precisely. And the designs weren't just about looking pretty, they had meaning. For example, the geometric layouts at Oldenbiesen show order and control, reflecting the Teutonic Knights' military past.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like those gardens tell a story.
Mm,
But Belgium in Bloom also talks about a simpler side to Belgian horticulture, right? Like those city gardens and sustainable practices.
definitely. While the estates and festivals are great, there's a real movement towards sustainable gardening, working with nature, not against it.
Okay, I'm already intrigued, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. What's the prime time to see all this floral glory?
Well, Belgium's great for flower lovers year-round. Each season has its unique charm. But if it's those classic tulip and daffodil fields you want, spring's the time to go, especially in Flanders.
Gotcha. Spring it is for those iconic Belgian flower picks. Is it just fields, though? Or are there other must-sees in spring?
Belgium in Bloom talks about the Hallerboos. They call it the Blue Forest. Imagine a forest floor covered in bluebells, bathed in that soft sunlight. It's magical.
Wait, they have a BLUE forest. That's incredible. Instagram gold. But I also love a good festival. Anything big happening in spring.
Spring in Belgium is all about color. And while it's not a huge festival, there are the royal greenhouses of Laeken. They're only open for a short time in spring.
Royal greenhouses. That sounds impressive. I'm picturing something elegant. What's their focus?
The book doesn't get into specifics, but it emphasizes the greenhouse's beauty and the rare plants they have. It's a different side of Belgian horticulture, especially if you love those grand estates.
I'm adding that to my list. Before we move on, though, with all these tulips, does the book talk about what happens to them after they bloom?
That's a good question. It mentions the growing focus on sustainability in the flower industry. It doesn't say specifically about the tulip fields, but it suggests going to local flower markets. You'll find unique, locally grown flowers there, and you can chat with the growers too.
Great tip. It's one thing to see those big displays, but it's another to understand where the flowers come from. Okay, we've got spring landscapes and a touch of sustainability. What happens as it heats up? Does Belgium become one giant flower explosion in the summer?
Not an explosion exactly, but summer in Belgium means flower festivals.
Yeah.
And there are two that Belgium in Bloom says are worth rearranging your trip for.
Okay, you've got my attention. Which festivals are that unique?
First, there's the Brussels Flower Carpet, held every 2 years in the Grand Place. Millions of begonias are arranged in intricate patterns. It's a giant living carpet in the city.
Millions of begonias. That's unbelievable. What happens to all those flowers afterward?
Good question. The book doesn't say exactly, but hundreds of volunteers create the flower carpet, so there's definitely a lot of care involved at every step.
That's good to know. It would be a shame if those millions of flowers went to waste.
Yeah.
Okay, you said there were two festivals. What's the other one?
The Ghent Flower Festival. It's 10 days of parades, exhibitions, workshops,
Mm.
all about the art and science of flowers.
Ghent's already charming. I can only imagine how magical it is during the flower festival. But I'm also thinking crowds and lines. Is there a way to experience it without feeling overwhelmed?
Good point. Belgium in Bloom recommends checking the schedule in advance and picking what interests you most. Also explore Ghent's gardens and green spaces for a break from the crowds.
I like that mix of excitement and peaceful escapes. But I'm a fall person. Do the flowers just disappear in Belgium when it gets cold?
Not at all. Belgium in Bloom actually says Belgium's fall foliage is amazing. And it's not just the leaves. There are late bloomers like asters and chrysanthemums. They add these pops of color to the landscape.
It's like a last burst of color before winter. Where does the book recommend going to see all that fall beauty?
Arboretum Kalmthout. It's known for its trees, and the colors in fall are supposed to be stunning.
Going on the list. I love combining those fall colors with the last of the flowers. But with all these festivals and gardens, we haven't talked much about sustainable gardening. Does Belgium in Bloom say how to experience that side of Belgium in fall?
It does. Fall's the perfect time to visit those less-known nature reserves. They might be too crowded in peak season. The book says to explore the forests and trails, where you can really soak up autumn without the crowds.
I love that. Perfect for the slow travel idea, soaking up the peace before the holidays.
Exactly. And speaking of the holidays, don't think it's over for flower lovers once winter hits.
Wait, really? What's there to see in winter? I thought everything would be frozen.
Things do quiet down, but the book points out that botanical gardens and conservatories are like warm green havens in winter, perfect for escaping the cold.
So it's like a tropical escape when it's snowing outside.
Yeah, and remember those royal greenhouses? They're worth seeing again in winter. The atmosphere is completely different. Imagine those exotic plants in that soft winter light.
That does sound magical. Are there any actual flowers blooming in winter? Or is it mostly greenery and holiday stuff?
You won't see those fields of tulips. But there are winter blooming plants, and the holiday markets add something special with all the floral decorations, especially in places like Bruges. It's a different kind of flower beauty, but just as charming.
I'm convinced. Even in winter, Belgium finds a way to keep things blooming. Now, the book also mentions hidden gardens right in the cities. That sounds cool, especially after seeing all those big estates.
It is a contrast. Imagine walking through Brussels or Antwerp and finding a secret garden behind a wall or in a quiet courtyard.
Okay, now I'm picturing those secret garden scenes from old movies. Does the book give actual locations for these hidden gardens?
Yes. For Brussels, it recommends the Ixelles district. It's known for its squares and hidden green spaces.
Ixelles got it. What about Antwerp? Any secret garden intel there?
The book says to go a bit outside the historic center to the St. Andrews district. They say it has hidden courtyards and gardens, perfect for a peaceful walk away from the crowds.
Adding it to the list. And what about Ghent? Any tips for secret gardens there?
Ghent is tough because it already feels like a hidden gem. But the book says to try the areas along the Lee River. Look for those tucked away green spaces. And look for signs for hofjes. They're traditional courtyards with houses around them, often with little gardens.
Hofje. I love that. Sounds so peaceful. Okay, so we've got vibrant cities with secret gardens and nature reserves. What else is Belgium in bloom hiding?
Get ready to go back in time, because next we're talking about those castle gardens.
Ooh, castle gardens. I'm thinking fairy tale stuff. Which ones does the book say are must-sees?
It starts with Château de Belloé. They call it the Versailles of Belgium. Imagine huge formal gardens, fountains, sculptures, perfect hedges. It's grandeur on another level.
Versailles of Belgium, that sets the bar high.
It does, but then the book takes you to Aldenbiesen. It's a completely different experience.
How so?
Aldenbiesen was a Teutonic commandery, remember? So it mixes history and natural beauty. The gardens are more structured, reflecting that military past.
So it's like the romantic beauty of Belloé versus the formal historical feel of Aldenbiesen. Are there any other castle gardens that Belgium in bloom highlights?
A couple more. It mentions the Annavoy Gardens. They're known for their water features and fountains. It's like water and greenery combined. It's supposed to be amazing.
Sounds incredible. The book's all about variety, which I love.
It is. Then there's Château de Gaspec. It's known for its mix of garden styles. Renaissance Baroque, even English landscape design all in one place.
Wow, a mix of garden styles. I love that. It's not just pretty, it's like a journey through different garden eras.
And Belgium in Bloom doesn't just tell you where to go, it gives you the history. For example, at Gaspec, you'll learn about the Marquise Arconati Visconti. She created that blend of styles in the early 1900s. It's like getting a peek into the minds of the people who made these gardens.
That makes them even more interesting. Okay, I'm inspired. But before we get too lost in castles and gardens, I want to go back to sustainability.
Belgium in Bloom really pushes the idea of sustainable gardening in Belgium, and it wants you to seek those experiences out during your trip.
I want to learn more about that. What kind of sustainable practices are we talking?
It covers a lot. From organic farming to permaculture, it's all about working in harmony with nature.
So it's about more than pretty flowers. It's about being responsible and preserving things. Does Belgium in Bloom give specific places to experience this?
It does. It says to look for organic farms and gardens. And it even suggests a few places where visitors can learn about these practices and even participate.
Okay, I'm adding visit a sustainable farm to my to-do list. But I'm realizing I'll need more than a weekend in Belgium to see all this.
Probably true. But the book has a whole chapter on planning your trip based on what you want to see and how much time you have. It's got tips, suggested routes, and even ways to find those off-the-beaten-path spots you're looking for.
Phew, that's good to know. It's like having the authors of Belgium and Bloom sharing their secrets.
You got it.
I love that. But before we get into planning, I just want to recap. We've got everything from tulip fields to secret city gardens. Belgium's got it all. It's a mix of history, culture, and natural beauty with that sustainable touch.
Well said. And that's just the start. There's a lot more to uncover as we go deeper into Belgium in bloom.
Okay, we're back and ready for more Belgium and Bloom. We were about to get into those castle gardens.
Ah, yes. The castles and their gardens, they're in a whole other league. The book doesn't just say to go there, it explains their history and the people behind them.
Right, you mentioned Chateau de Belloy, the Versailles of Belgium. It seems like it's not just about how big and impressive those estates are, it's about the thinking behind their design.
Exactly. The book goes into the history of garden design. It explains how different styles show what was popular at the time and what people believed. For instance, those French formal gardens, like at Belloy, they're all about symmetry and order. It reflects this idea that people can control nature.
So it's like those perfect hedges and geometric shapes are telling us how people saw the world back then. It's amazing how a garden can be so much more than just pretty plants.
It really is. And the book suggests looking for those details when you visit. Don't just walk around. Take your time, see the patterns, the plants, the layout. You'll start to understand those historical and cultural influences.
I'll definitely be looking at gardens differently now. But you said Alden Beson's is a different experience. What makes it so unique?
Well, Belloy is that grand French style. But Alden Beson's gardens have a more structured, almost military feel. It used to be a Teutonic commandery, a stronghold of the Teutonic Knights.
Oh, right. So those geometric layouts and straight lines we talk about, they weren't just for looks. They came from that military history. It's cool how Belgium and Bloom connects those things.
It shows that gardens aren't just plants, they're living history, culture, even philosophy.
I am loving these castle gardens. Are there others in Belgium and Bloom we shouldn't miss?
Oh yeah, a few more treasures in there. It talks about the Anavoy Gardens. They're all about water features and fountains. Imagine water and plants working together. It's supposed to be a sensory experience.
Water gardens, that sounds amazing. So different from those formal gardens we were talking about.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about Belgium's gardens. There's so much variety, from grand and formal to small and whimsical.
I love that. And I'm thinking, I need to really embrace that slow travel idea to see it all.
Absolutely. Rushing from castle to castle wouldn't do it justice. The book says to slow down, soak up the atmosphere. Notice the little things that make each garden special.
Note to self, slow down, breathe, enjoy.
Yeah.
But before we leave those castle gardens behind, there was one more. You mentioned Chateau de Gasbec. What makes it stand out?
Gaspic is interesting because it's like a mix of different garden styles from different times, Renaissance, Baroque, even English landscape design, all in one place. It shows the taste of the Marquise Arconati Visconti. She designed the gardens in the early 1900s.
So it's like a museum of garden design. I love how the book tells us about the people behind these landscapes. It makes them even more special.
It does. Speaking of stories, let's switch gears for a minute. Remember those secret city gardens?
Yes, they sounded so intriguing. After seeing those huge estates, I want to experience a more hidden side of Belgium's flowers.
It's a cool contrast, isn't it? Walking through Brussels or Antwerp, and suddenly there's a peaceful garden behind a wall. Or in a quiet courtyard. It's like finding a secret world.
I'm getting enchanted. But does Belgium in Bloom tell us where to find these secret spots? I don't want to wander around cities hoping to find a garden by chance.
No worries, the book gives us some clues. For Brussels, it says to check out the Ixelles district. It's known for its squares and hidden green spaces.
Ixelles, okay, got it. What about Antwerp? Any hints for secret gardens there?
Belgium in Bloom says to go a little outside the historic center to the St. Andrews district. It says it has hidden courtyards